Hey everybody, welcome back to the afternoon Ask Anything show here on Pittsburgh Sports.com. I'm Chris Carter here with Dale Lolley. It's a dynamic duo of football coverage here at the DK Pittsburgh Sports. We're doing all the things. I'm Chris Carter, though it says Ron Mexico over here on Dale's name tag. Dale, please, I didn't even get this reference. Please let the fans know who the heck is Ron Mexico.
It was Michael Vick's alias at one point during his career when he was staying in hotels. There was an incident, and he called himself Ron Mexico at the hotel desk.
No, the Ron Mexico. And
nobody uses their real names.
No, nobody uses their real names. Got Ron.
And hey, the Steelers have Matt Canada. They had Ron Mexico, who's
all the countries north and south of the United States there. But interesting stuff there. Dale, well, first of all, let's wish everyone a happy Memorial Day weekend. We hope that you guys had a great time and that, we all get to think and honor about the troops who have served and who have passed on and served this country and gave them the ultimate sacrifice. We hope that you got to spend time with that and spend time with your families, because that's a huge part of the weekend, is you being able to spend time with family. And with the world opening back up, it was a great opportunity for a lot of people to do that. So I know somebody did. And remember, you can listen to and watch the Ask Anything show and ask us questions over the next half hour on Facebook Live, YouTube, or Periscope. If you're watching on Twitter, drop a question in the comments and we will answer them right here on the show. If you miss any of our answers, you can listen to it on our podcast platform that can be downloaded on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere podcasts are hosted. Just look up DKPittsburghSports.com. Now, Dale, Ben Roethlisberger talked to us today. So we got to
first time since the season ended,
right? And that's kind of crazy to think. It's like, wow, like it's been that long. I've written a story. You're working on your 5 thoughts right now on what was said here. I thought some of the more interesting things he said was how he was like, "Hey, the pay cut was my idea," and how much he wanted to be back in Pittsburgh, not just because of his teammates or who he liked on the team, even though that was a cool thing he said, but also because of how much he appreciates the organization.
Yeah, whether that's true or not,
right?
It's Ben, and he has a tendency to
exaggerate
a little bit. But the pay cut was going to happen. If he wanted to return to Pittsburgh, he was going to have to take a pay cut. Now, whether he came to that realization on his own or whether the team kind of pushed him in that direction a little bit, they weren't going to say no. Let's put it that way. So I think the writing was on the wall when it came to, if Ben Roethlisberger wants to return, he's going to have to make some things happen, with his contract, and those things happened. I thought it was interesting, when he was talking about, and this is kind of the lead to my 10 thoughts or my thoughts issue. It's 5 thoughts actually. He talked about how last offseason he was throwing thousands of passes every day, trying to get that arm back into shape to get ready for a season. And we saw him wear down at the end of the season. You can look at that Steelers, the way the Steelers finished the season, and Roethlisberger had 7 interceptions in the last 6 games, regular season games, and then 4 in the playoffs. He only had 10 during the regular season, so he only threw 3 in all the other games. But as the season wore on, we saw some passes that just didn't have the same zip on them, or he made some bad decisions that maybe he wouldn't have made earlier in the season or hadn't made earlier in the season. So I wonder if him not throwing as much this offseason will pay dividends for the Steelers in 2021 with a fresher arm.
Absolutely. That's another thing to think about too, is like he said, you don't know, that whole year, even if your doctor tells you that you're fine and that everyone said, you see the x-rays and everything says, oh, you're good to go. There's still that party that's like, man, what if just something just weird happens? And now he's been through a whole season and now he's back and he can say, you know what? I've been through that fire. I've taken hits. I've seen what it's like in the NFL. It's time to get back to what I do. And find that comfort with the reconstructed elbow there. So, you're right, Dale. That's a very interesting part of what he said here. We're getting some We're getting a ton of questions here. First of all, we got to talk about our sponsors at Mike's Beer Bar and the North Shore Tavern. Chad Parsons asking, is the only difference between Mike's Beer Bar and the North Shore Tavern the beer selection at Mike's? Yes. I know this question was directed at Dale, but you're talking to a guy here who always be drinking beer.
That's Chris. That's Chris's home away from home.
Exactly. Yes. I just live there. Like, as soon as we're done here and I'm done writing, I go right to Mike's Beer Bar and I'm like, Mike, hook me up with a steak on a stone. Hook me up with like 3 different beers. And but do go to Mike's Beer Bar. The main difference there, so there's two. The establishments are right next to each other.
They're connected and they're owned by the same people. So yes, you can get the same beer that you can get at Mike's Beer Bar. You can get that at the North Shore Tavern. It's just a little bit different dining experience.
Yes. The North Shore Tavern has a little bit more on the food and cocktail side. Mike's Beer Bar, they have the taps right in front of you.
It's a beer bar.
It's a beer bar. So like if you're like me and you want to drink good beer and you like to try all the different flavors and crafts and IPAs and the higher alcohol percentages, you go to Mike's Beer Bar and get that experience. If you go to North Shore Tavern,
that's what you need, Carter. More alcohol, higher percentages.
Yeah, that's what I want. More alcohol. Listen, Dale. We gonna get to experience some Sharkies this summer, so get ready for that. That's where the alcohol is gonna be going. But let's move back here. Daniel Matos, it's only been 6 minutes, and we have our first Carey Price joke of the show. Carter, did you see Carey Price last night? He was with 4 O's there, amazing.
That's
Dale,
3. That's 3 times as amazing for those of you keeping track at home.
3 times.
That's 3 extra O's.
3 extra O's on top of that. Honestly, I didn't. I was driving a lot yesterday. I was coming back from North Carolina, so I missed out on this happenstance. Also, the Penguins are out of the playoffs, so less inclined to check out the NHL playoffs right now. I don't know if you caught it, Dale.
I did not know.
Yeah, I mean, it's Carey Price. I got a couple tweets. Like Taylor tweeted at me, and I was like, "Oh, great, Carey Price did something." But hey. Congratulations to them for beating the Maple Leafs and being one of the many teams to beat the Maple Leafs over the last 60 years in the first round of the playoffs. So good for him. Still not better than Von Miller. Moving along here. But Daniel also has like a legit question. Well, legit in this sense. It's have you heard? Yeah. See, I knew Dale was gonna like start to show his face on this before we even talked about it. But his question,
that whole thing arose out of some blogger sitting somewhere and saying, hey, the Steelers should trade for Leighton Vander Esch because the Cowboys drafted an inside linebacker and Leighton Vander Esch isn't going to – there's nothing to it. It's a completely made-up rumor. I had people tweeting at me yesterday, is there any truth to this? So I look into it and I'm like, no, it's some random blogger who came up with something saying he had sources. Well, you know what? Your bartender isn't a source, pal.
Right.
No, there's no truth to it.
And listen, I get that this is the time of year when you struggle for content, especially when you don't have access, you're not going.
But don't make stuff up.
Don't make stuff up. But Dale, this was why I got into film stuff. When I was blogging, I realized I don't want to make stuff up or say what if here and what if there. I'm like, let's talk about the things that are tangible for me, and that was the film. That was the thing that I had access to, that everyone has access to, and let's try to bring some expertise there. And that's why I work here now. But when you talk about these random things, I mean, sure, it'll get 2 days of blowing up on Twitter and people being like, oh, that would be really cool. But even when you think about it, what sense would this make now? Leighton Vander Esch is hurt all the time. He comes with the first round tender. And then you also got you just drafted Buddy Johnson. If they're going to trade for a guy or get a new guy, it would be a corner, an edge rusher, an offensive tackle, inside linebacker. If they hadn't drafted a Buddy Johnson, maybe.
Why would they trade for a guy who has 1 year left on his contract?
Yeah, exactly.
You're basically renting him. There's no guarantee that you're going to be able to bring him back. He can't stay healthy to begin with. There's a reason why the Cowboys are ready to move on from him. It's just silliness. Don't make stuff up. Don't do it. Look, you can make something up like that, and there's no repercussions because you're just some random blogger about it. But get your name out there. Ooh, it sounds good. Mm-hmm. Hey, look, people are talking about me, but it ruins your credibility.
Yeah. And that's what we don't do here. But Daniel, I'm glad you asked the question, Daniel, because as fans, you don't know what to believe sometimes, and you just see something on Twitter and you're like, "Whoa, is this real?" But that's why we're here to help you on the Ask Anything show to answer your questions on these type of situations. We're gonna take a quick break. What Sherrod learned once pointed out, he was at PNC Park for the first time in 2 years this weekend and stopped in at the North Shore Tavern and said there was good food and nice people. Thanks for the recommendation. Hey, go anytime. That place is amazing, whether you're going to a baseball game or not. I just go off the drink.
It's absolutely perfect if you're going to a baseball game.
Yes, it's perfect.
You're walking right across the street to the entrance to the park. It's perfect. It's a perfect location if you're going to a baseball game.
And on top of that, it's really a baseball bars. Like, you walk into the North Shore Tavern and there's these giant face portraits of Clemente, of Wagner, of stars. It's just like, you're like, whoa, this is amazing. This is a great place. You got to check that place out. Go support our sponsors at Mike's Beer Bar in the North Shore Tavern. They're a great place, but also support us at DKPittsburghSports.com. Here's a quick commercial about us right here.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Back here on the afternoon Ask Anything show here on DKPittsburghSports.com. I'm Chris Carter with Dale Lolley.
I'm Ron Mexico.
A.K.A. Ron Mexico, as he is on this very show. Eric Straight asking a very generic question. Hey, guys, any sports-related issues to talk about today? Eric, that's what we're here to talk about. So if you got any questions, we're happy to answer you.
There's always plenty.
There's always plenty. I'm keeping tabs on the NBA because I do like basketball, and I'm interested to see how the playoffs continue. I've been a Heat guy, so seeing them get swept by the Bucks was just soul crushing. Yeah, they got utterly destroyed by Giannis.
Well, it's better than being a Detroit Pistons fan like me.
It's okay, buddy. Someday y'all get back.
We got I've seen them win championships.
Hey,
multiple.
Hey, as a Heat guy, I've seen them win multiple championships. So
yeah, but we didn't have to buy ours.
Hey, listen. Dwayne Wade won that first one by himself, and then LeBron James came into town. but it was all fun and games. But Eric, ask any question you got. You got the two Steelers dudes right on the show. We can answer all those questions. We're getting a lot of hockey questions though for this being a double Steelers show. Paulski5 says, Chris, since you have a bunch of hockey experts on the site, who do you have winning the Canadiens and Jets series? We all know who DK wants to see win, of course, Winnipeg. How do you think Carey Price will do? I'm just listen.
It doesn't matter because they're Canadian teams.
Dang. Dale going there saying, get him out of here, eh?
Look, the Canadian division was the weakest in the league this year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Listen, I don't know. I'm not picking nobody to win the whole thing, but I will say this. Carey Price, y'all say he's the best defender in the history of sports. I'm going with Carey Price. How could I bet against Carey Price? He's Mel Blount combined with Joe Green and Lawrence Taylor all in one package. So pick Carey Price. What are y'all doing? Paul, I'm not going against him. You crazy? I'm not. Shh. Anyways, come on, give us some football questions, guys. But Brent, we have a football question here. Though a generic one. Dale, have you seen the newly drafted punter Presley Harvin III yet? And if yes, did anything stand out?
Yeah, I saw him, and I actually saw him kick today. Nothing. I mean, he's a punter.
Yeah.
I don't know what's he supposed to look like. But he's got wide shoulders. I'll give him that. He just has to be as good as, or nearly as good as, Jordan Berry. Now, I say that, and a lot of people say, "Well, that's easy to do." Jordan Berry actually had a pretty good year last year.
He did.
You can't take that away from him. I think he averaged like 45.8 yards a punt. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with that. We'll see. That's why they have these open competitions. They'll both get opportunities to punt in the preseason, and that will go a long ways. I saw Danny Smith out there today with the the stopwatch on both of them, looking at hang time and things of that nature. So it's an open competition. They used a draft pick on him, albeit a 7th-round draft pick on him.
Still a draft pick.
One of the last picks in the draft. But, I think the idea is they would like to see him make this to roster and, save $400,000 against their cap.
Absolutely. And I'll say I haven't seen him punt in practice, but I watched him punt against Pitt last year. And Pitt early on was pinning Georgia Tech's offense back against the wall time after time. And every time Presley Harvin would get out there and he would just boom a punt for like 60 yards. And it would be ridiculous. He flipped the field and he kept Georgia Tech alive, I'd say, until the third quarter when Pitt just kind of broke the game open with their ground game. But I mean, I was watching like, who is this guy? And he was, and not just far, but he would coffin corner him. He would put him to the sidelines. He'd put hang time on him. If he can do that, if he can do what he did last year, in his last year with Georgia Tech, he gonna be in the NFL. I am confident to say that. All right, we got a Ben question here from Chad Parsons. Thoughts on the offense this year regarding Ben's comments today about the changes coming. He talked about Matt Canada and the verbiage changing. Dale, what's your explanation to what's actually going to be looking at here?
A lot of what he said today was tongue in cheek. It was Ben being Ben. They're not gonna. It's not a ton of changes. There are some. Obviously, the verbiage is different. As he said, what we call a formation, even though it was a formation that we already ran, is now a new name. He's going to learn that. But it's not a whole lot of new stuff. They had some of the motion and things of that nature and jet sweep motion already in the offense from last year. Now it's just going to be more of it. But I don't see it being a massive overhaul of the offense unless you count running the ball a lot more than they did last year. I expect to see that, but I just don't see the overall. I mean, Roethlisberger still has a hand in drawing this whole thing up. They're not going to do things. They're not going to ask him to do things that he's incapable of doing. That's bad coaching if you do that. So they're gonna cater this offense around Ben's talents. That's what it's going to be. And so I expect to see, maybe more deep passes. I don't think there's any doubt when he's talked about his arm feeling better than it did a year ago. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I've watched him throw the football. Mm-hmm. I've had people ridicule me on Twitter because he's throwing warm-up passes.
Right.
I wrote that tongue in cheek. Apparently, people didn't get the joke, and then you have Pro Football Focus come out, and he's throwing some short passes, helping Najee Harris work out, and they think it's real funny to say, "Here's Ben working on his deep game." Yeah, he can throw the football, folks.
Right.
He's not Drew Brees at the end. He's not Peyton Manning at the end.
Again, he was connecting with like 40-yard bombs to like Claypool and Johnson at the end of the season. The last month,
he just wasn't connecting with them often enough because they were running low percentage down the sideline routes. I've seen him. Go back and watch the Indianapolis game
when they turned it on in the second half.
Yeah. Even the second half against Cleveland in the playoffs, when he's throwing the ball down the field, he's delivering the ball down the field. He can still throw the deep ball down the field. Mm-hmm. The thing that was missing for him last year was his accuracy in some cases. And again, I think some of that was arm fatigue.
I agree. And like you said, he's not throwing 1,000 passes leading up to the season. Now, this is him more coming into it comfortably.
Or thousands of passes.
Right. Well, yeah. So there's going to be a lot different this year as far as him being more comfortable with himself. But still, whereas the offense will change a little bit, like Dale said, they're not going to completely overhaul it so that Ben is just like a fish out of water. There's still going to be things that he knows and understands. There's just going to be probably considerably more running the ball. That's part of it. Paulsky 5 cents says, general NFL question here. Who's getting moved first? Julio Jones, Aaron Rodgers, or Deshaun Watson? And
Deshaun Watson's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that situation's kind of dead in the water until we figure out what the heck's going on.
There's too many moving parts there, and he's got a cloud hanging over his head, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
He's not getting traded anytime soon. Julio Jones, Aaron Rodgers. I think Julio Jones is getting traded first.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the Falcons need to make that happen to get cap compliant, to be able to sign their picks.
Yeah.
They can't sign any of their draft picks until they do something with Julio Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers, I think Green Bay is going to try to make that work. They're going to try to make this thing better. whatever they need to do to make that happen, because you don't see the league MVP traded all that often.
Yeah.
It's just, so I would say they're in that order, Paul. Julio Jones, then Aaron Rodgers, then Deshaun Watson. And yes, you can quote me on that on your make-believe blog.
On your make-believe blog, MBB. But no, I'm with you. Deshaun can't go nowhere because who would trade for him right now? Aaron Rodgers is just.
And the Texans wouldn't get anything for him. Not what he's worth.
Exactly.
If he's able to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's too many things there. Aaron Rodgers. Again, franchise quarterback, end of his career, all the stuff that's going on there. Julio Jones, we see top receivers get moved. We saw Antonio Brown leave Pittsburgh. So it's, to me, that one, like when that happened on Shannon Sharpe, whether it was, to me, it was obvious. It was like, hey, this was kind of fake. But when it happened, it's like, okay, so like this is going to happen sooner rather than later, probably. But again, receivers move all the time. Odell Beckham Jr. was a Giant. Now he's a Brown. Like, it just, this happens a lot more in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers, little tough to move. Moving along here, Craig J. Cochran with a baseball question. Any thoughts on Pitt Baseball being left out of the NCAA tourney? I followed this year and thought they deserved a spot. Craig, Dale, I don't know if you followed them along. They certainly did during the season post a lot of impressive wins over big opponents, but finishing 1-8 when you're already an underdog.
Yeah.
Not that there isn't an argument that they should have been in there, but you make it that much harder to force that.
NCAA committees, when they're putting together their brackets, do factor in, especially obviously for the at-large teams, how are you playing now? And so, stumbling down the stretch doesn't help you earn that spot. If they'd finished the way that they started the season, if they'd started the season 1-8,
right,
and then won the games that they won early in the season down the stretch, they're probably in the tournament right now. And unfortunately for them, they got it reversed and stumbled down the stretch, and that's just not a good look. The NCAA tournament's trying to put together the best bracket it can do, and so it'll take a hot team, especially a hot team that has some name recognition to it, as opposed to taking a team that's stumbling down the stretch who, quite frankly, doesn't have that cachet build up. And that's the Pitt baseball program right now.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for them, but I'm with you.
They're in a far better place than they were 10 years ago.
This is very true. Yeah. And you're in a spot where, like, you can grow from this. There's excitement being generated there, and they beat plenty of ranked teams and higher ranked teams. So impressive stuff there. Taylor hits us with a question. Our colleague on the Hockey Beat at DK Pittsburgh Sports: is Carey Price the greatest goaltender of all time, or just our generation? How many games is he going to shut out the Jets? First of all, he's
7.
All seven.
7
Somehow, like, they'll pull him in the third period of the 3 games that they lose, and then they'll lose, and then they'll win the series because he'll shut out every single time that he'll be on the ice. He is the greatest goalie of all time, better than Martin Brodeur, better than Dominic Hasek, better than anybody you can name. I just named the 2 hockey goalies that I knew growing up. But yeah. Carey Price is the GOAT goalie of all time, hands down. On to other questions here. This is one thing I'm not really familiar with. Timothy Hemmis says, "Is it slow football time of the year? Thoughts on Edmonton changing the name in the Canadian Football League?" I didn't know that they did. Did you, Dale?
No idea.
Hey, we're too locked in on Steelers.
That would be no thoughts on the CFL. Sorry, Timothy.
It's not we're locked in, man. We're trying to get you all the Steelers and NFL news. CFL tough to keep up with at time. Chad Parsons says, Dale, thoughts on the man wearing number 22 for the Steelers? I guess looking on what you've seen lately in practice. And Ben did talk about him today. Yeah,
he did, and he's impressive. You heard Ben talk about him today, saying that he's a hard worker. They essentially had to tell him, hey, it's time to go home. During one of the OTA sessions last week, he wanted to stay and watch film. So that goes along with everything that we heard about him. If you go back and read Tom's excellent piece on the site in regard to Najee Harris and who he is, his high school coaches talked about having to hide his helmet from him to keep him from working out constantly. You see him even in these practice sessions, OTA practice sessions, where a lot of guys, especially young guys, are kind of trying to feel their way through this. He's always working on something, and I can't wait to see him play. We'll see. I mean, I think he's going to end up being maybe the best non-quarterback impact on any team this year among the rookies. I think he makes the biggest impact of any of the rookie players this year, who isn't a quarterback, because obviously they touch the ball every play. Trevor Lawrence is going to make a big impact with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They won 1 game last year. If they win 5 this year, he's been a massive improvement for them. But I think Najee Harris makes the Steelers a much better football team.
I agree entirely. I mean, this young man is extremely impressive, both as a person to talk to. Like, I'm impressed by his confidence and how he's able to still think. Like, he's not just saying ridiculous things. He is thinking about what he's saying. And
except
then
except when he thinks we're boosters.
That is still one of the funniest things I've ever heard. I'm like, what? I mean, Dale, you could have said "bro what" when he said that. When he said "bro what" to you, you could have been said "bro."
I should have tossed some dollar bills at him, or maybe. Although he went to Alabama, maybe he expects more than dollars. I don't know.
Maybe like hundreds.
I kid our folks in Alabama.
Yeah, we're sorry. We're making jokes. Okay, so Dale, there's people doing this. Death or Glory 80 asks, "What can you tell us about Kalil Bellage? National media seems to be excited about him for some reason." I mean, I
don't know if I've seen that.
Yeah,
like he's an NFL running back.
He's a vet. Dale, this is what I said when they signed him. That's a hey Benny Snell, hey Anthony McFarland, hey Jalen Samuels. Don't get beat by that guy, or your job might be gone come August. So
he's a good sized back. He's got good feet. Right. I was watching him today. Sent Carter some of the video of that. Obviously, we couldn't use it because of the Roethlisberger stuff, but he's got good feet. We'll see. It hasn't exactly worked out all that well for him in his first couple of stops in the NFL. That doesn't mean it can't. We've seen other guys, change teams and all of a sudden it just clicks for them. Priest Holmes comes to mind, for example.
Yeah.
As a guy who it didn't work out for him in Baltimore. In Kansas City, he was a star. So it happens. But he's looking at being no better than number 2 here.
Right.
So
he's not.
I don't know why you would get super excited about him, because Najee Harris is going to be the guy.
Mm-hmm. I do think there's merit to trying to find the number 2, like Muweldy Moore. Muweldy Moore was a good role piece in that 2008 season. He replaced Willie Parker at times. He made some really important third down catches. Having that number 2 guy is still important, but again, like you said, the story is Najee Harris is going to be taking over for this offense for some time. Rolling on here, Hank has like a 2-parted question, looks like here. It says, Dale, there's a lot. Oh, okay. He's talking about this. Dale, there's a lot of people crushing you for your tennis take today. I don't follow the sport, but I'm bothered that some people have called for your commentary to be taken down. Let's address this before we move on to the football part of the question. Dale, you wrote your talking point. It was about the naming of Osaka and her bringing up mental health. I disagree with you, but when people were like, take this down, I'm like, it's a take. It's sports. We're supposed to talk about these things. Why aren't we supposed to talk about these things? This is when we're taking I think okay, I'm not going to say that she was that she was doing anything wrong by doing this. And I also don't think they have any fault in penalizing her for it and fining her $15,000. You're paid to be, or you're part of this contest is being here to show up to talk to the media. I also think if she doesn't want to and she wants to take that penalty, that's up to her. And if she wants to not be in the tournament, that's up to her. But I think there's a lot of people that are like this way or that way. I'm like, listen, I just respect people's wishes. And if she's saying it's a mental health problem, that's her mental health problem to deal with.
I just have a problem with her using and look, I don't know her. I know a lot about her, but I have people in my life who I'm very close to who have real mental health issues, who have social anxiety issues. And so I know what this looks like. I know what they deal with on a daily basis. When she comes out, and this is the problem I had with it, when she comes out and says, I don't want to do this because the media ask me the same questions all the time. And B, I don't want to do this because if, they only want to talk to me, they want to talk to me after I lose. They want to ask those kind of questions and we shouldn't have to talk to the media after we lose. I'm sorry. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
That's part of the game. And you signed up for it and you've gotten very rich. She's a very rich young lady because of it, because of the people that came before her who all did that. You think Chris Everett or Martina Navratilova or any of these other great women's tennis players who fought for women's tennis, Serena and Venus Williams, fought for the women's game to be considered on par with the men. And in a lot of places now, the women's game is considered better than the men's game because it's deeper.
Yeah.
They fought for her, for her to be she made $55 million last year because she plays women's tennis. And she only made $5 million of that on the tennis court. She's an international star because of women's tennis. And to me, if you're not going to talk because you don't want to answer tough questions, I'm sorry, that's not your mental health. That to me is an excuse. I don't want to have to answer those questions. The Penguins didn't make Tristan Jarry available to the media after the playoff losses. That's wrong. You have to be accountable for those things. I'm in the comments, Hank, and I appreciate your comment on that. I'm in there answering for what I said and what I wrote and what I believe in that. Where's her accountability in this situation? She pulled out of the tournament. She knew what the rules were before she joined the tournament. Apparently, she thought that, well, I'll just take the fine and be done with it. And they said, no, we could make you withdraw from the tournament. We could make you default. Well, okay. And let's not discount the fact that she doesn't play as well on clay. And so it was already in her mind that she wasn't going to win this thing.
And listen, I get the idea that I'm with you that you need to be able to be accountable, but I also understand, there's times that people go through things that we never understand, and there's a ton of things that she's rich, she's doing very well, she's a superstar icon.
That to me has nothing to do with it. Right. Whether she's making $5 or $55 million has nothing to do with her happiness.
Right,
but she signed up to do a job. And part of that job is speaking with the media.
Right. And I get that entirely. But here's my thing, though. She said, fine, I'll just pull out. That's no problem. And if she has to take this time, and Venus and Serena and Billie Jean King, they've come out and said, hey, do what you got to do to protect yourself. That is something that needs to happen here.
That's fine. But
and I think I think that's where some people took your comments the wrong direction, is that you weren't saying bad for her for pulling out. I think you didn't appreciate her mental health thing. But even though I do think that there's merit to, if that's really what she's going through, then that's what she's going through.
But
and
that's not what she said in her opening statement. She said it was because, she didn't want to have to answer repetitive questions, and she didn't want to have to deal with negative media. Well, that's not your mental health. I'm sorry. That's being a professional athlete. And she's a professional, she's a great athlete. She's the best women's player in the world. I'm sorry. With that comes some criticism if you lose, and with that, because of the for lack of a better word, notoriety. And notoriety is not the better word, but the acclaim that you get because you are the best women's player in the world. People want to know about you. And so, you're going to get some repetitive questions. You probably go to every tournament you go to, and they ask you about whatever, what's your favorite food?
And with that,
have fun with it.
Right. And with that will also come the tough times. Serena went through a ton of that. I mean, Serena
Absolutely.
was called an ape. She was compared to a gorilla on national television. Like
the
stuff that she went through. And I think that's where a Serena supporter is like, listen, I was able to handle it differently, but also Serena, and she had her sister and her dad who used to step into interviews when they were like 14 years old. And you don't ask my daughter that question. Maybe she had better training to deal with it. But point being, I think this is a bigger conversation than some people are saying, oh, take this argument down, take that argument down.
What kind of society are we if we can't have differing opinions? And if you're too sensitive to read my opinion on that says a lot more about you than it does me.
Right.
Quite frankly. And you can't read somebody else's differing opinion. Shame on you.
Yeah.
Anyways, to get to your next question, Hank, and appreciate that one.
Right.
Is there any chance for Steven Nelson to return to the Steelers? Been really surprised that he is out there. I assume he still wants lots of money. No, there's no chance.
This is me doing the Bridgesburg sound.
They've moved on. They've already given his number to another player.
Yeah, that's the ultimate story. It's like, Najee, take your college number. He ain't coming back.
So it's just not happening. I'm not really surprised that he hasn't signed anywhere else yet. I think you'll see more of those signings happening now that we're into June, and teams teams like to get into training camp settings and OTA settings, or mini camp settings, I should say, and assess what they have. What do our rookies look like? Do we think this guy gets it? Enough that we feel he can come in and help out this year. There'll be a team out there who realizes that's not the case, or there will be a team out there that has an injury that says, okay, we need to sign this guy. There are also a couple teams out there that still need, cornerback help. Like the Arizona Cardinals, for one. They don't, they essentially got rid of Patrick Peterson. They could certainly use a guy like Steven Nelson. He'll play in the league this year. It just won't be for the Steelers.
Right. We're gonna do some rapid fire here to get out of here because we're over our time, but we do want to get your questions on. Aging Slowly 51 says, how much of an impact do you see McFarland making this year? Dale, not much.
I think he'll make an impact.
You think so?
I think you'll see him used on some jet sweep motions and things of that nature.
That's true. Matt Canada
wouldn't surprise me to see some stuff with him and Najee Harris on the field at the same time. Wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Craig Cotterin says, did Juju do anything to address the knee issue, surgery, and will it be an issue again this year?
Well, today was the first day that Juju was back with the Steelers at OTA practice today, and he did not speak to the media. We got one Zoom call. That was Ben Roethlisberger. So, no, nothing yet on Juju.
Yeah, we'll figure that out as we go. Anthony Georgiana says, Julio to the Chargers sounds like a smart move. Jeez, Julio to the Chargers with Keenan and
I just don't know what you're getting out of Julio Jones at this point in his career.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. And again, that's a lot of money that you're probably taking on unless you're getting the Falcons. And then how much do you give up? You
probably have to trade, a player or two to make that happen.
Right.
And then who do you give up?
Robert Fulton says, is James Conner still in the Steelers roster? No, he's a Cardinal. And clarification on what was happening. And Taylor was texting me during the show. So the CFL team switched from the Eskimos to the Elks because that's a Native American reference and there's some uncomfortableness there. And hey, I think that if they've received feedback,
nobody ever cares about the feelings of the Elks.
Yes, they are not a nationality.
The noble Elks,
the noble Elks, or the Elk Lodges. But
it's true.
But I do think it's cool that people are. If there was a response from people of the Eskimo community in Canada and abroad, just being like, hey, we don't appreciate the name. I think it's cool that teams hear them out and adjust. So
nobody ever asked me about Notre Dame.
Wait, how is Notre Dame you?
Huh?
You're not Irish?
I've got Irish blood in my
You got Irish. You're Irish on St. Patrick's Day. That's what you
No, pal. No. Look it up.
All right.
There's a Lolley Providence or whatever they call county in Ireland.
Oh, that's cool. Hemis wants to say that there's Trevor Harris was a quarterback for Edinburgh, so there's a Pennsylvania connection there. Worst franchise since its last championship, the Maple Leafs or the Pirates? I mean, I'd say the Maple Leafs because the Pirates have won World Series since the Maple Leafs have won one. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's easy. Chad Parsons, any thoughts on slot corner?
Not really yet.
Yeah,
it's too early for that.
To tell.
They're not even doing 11-on-11 work yet.
Right, like people saying Shakur Brown or Trey Norwood, just chill out. We'll see in training camp. Taylor says, Taylor brings up, I guess with mental health, he says, I've said in the past I've wore headphones in certain situations because it helped me focus, etc. Because it's easier than saying I'd have panic attack otherwise. Almost like people don't always feel like making mental health things public unless necessary. And I get that. There's times where I'll tell you what, there's times where I feel like I have mental health issues that I don't want people to know about.
There's times when I feel like you have mental health issues. And
see, there's times you think I'm having one, but I'm okay, and you don't pick it up. Like you like Dale thinks my mental health issues are during fantasy drafts when I'm picking my team. He's like, "Oh, why'd you pick that guy?" But then I come and bring the smack down and beat him twice in the same season.
I was not at all making light of mental health issues at all.
No, I know you weren't. Oh, sorry.
Ever.
I was
for people to take it that way, I'm sorry. It's just
I got you. I don't know who Edwards is. Danny Hathaway. What happened with Edwards? Do you know an Edwards?
James Edwards? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So, sorry, Danny. We don't know who that is. And then back to the Van Der Esch thing. We've already expressed that ain't happening. It ain't happening.
No, that's ridiculous.
You can get out of here.
It's not a rumor when somebody just made it up.
Right. But from Chris Carter and Ron Mexico here on the Afternoon Ask Anything. Thanks so much for joining us for this show. Danny Hathaway says Troy Edwards. Okay.
Oh, Troy Edwards.
I mean, he's been gone a long time, man.
Yeah.
But thanks again for joining us for the afternoon Ask Anything show. Join us all week from 3 to 3:30. We will have you here right on, whether you're watching Facebook Live, YouTube, or Periscope, if you're checking us out on Twitter. And also, if you missed any of our questions live, you can listen to it on the DKPittsburghSports.com podcasting platform, where you can listen to all of our shows at any point in time. Be back in the ears tomorrow with more Ask Anything.